For Inside Carolina, I'm Taylor Vippolis, and this is a new podcast to the Inside Carolina lineup up in the Rafters, where 2017 ACC Player of the Year national champion Justin Jackson and myself will be talking about all things Carolina basketball. Before we get started, though, I just wanted to say thank you for being here. Be sure you subscribe to Inside Carolina wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube so you never miss out on any of the content the team at IC puts out. The support doesn't go unnoticed on this end. Speaking of support, we want to support the people that support us. So that's why I've got to mention our friends over at Johnny T-Shirt. When it comes to Carolina apparel, they have everything that you could possibly want. The T-shirts, the jerseys, the hats, you name it, and they will probably have it because it's great people and great customer service since it's locally owned and operated by alumni. You could visit them in person on Franklin Street or online at johnnytshirt.com. And don't forget, Inside Carolina premium subscribers save 10% off their orders. It's up in the Rafters. As always, I'm joined by my guy, Justin Jackson. And Justin, UNC continues its winning ways. They win on the road at NC State, and then they follow that win up with an overtime win against Syracuse, where Caleb Love essentially saves Carolina's season down the stretch with a couple of big shots, and then Carolina goes on a big run to start overtime and kind of puts that game away. But over the past week, what have kind of been your biggest takeaways watching this Carolina basketball team?
I mean, they've got a different edge about them right now, man. For one, you go into NC State, which it's always good to beat NC State, but at NC State is a hostile environment. You know, I mean, those fans, they say about there's really no rules as far as what they cheer. And so going in there, the way Armando dominated the game was great to see. But then everybody else chipped in and played really well. And then you have a game like Syracuse, which is tough going against a zone, the way that they play. And then you have a guy who in Cole Swider, who had a freaking career game. Felt like he didn't miss a single shot. And you're able to grind that one out, like you said, with Caleb hitting some big shots down the stretch. I think they're playing with a different type of energy. I think once again, man, I gotta give Leaky props as far as they had Cole and Buddy both on the court, and whichever guy Leaky was guarding was pretty much shut off. Because I think even at the end of the game, they switched him onto Cole, and that's whenever Buddy hit a few shots down the stretch. So I think if they continue to play with kind of that competitive attitude that they've been playing with the last couple games, I think there's no better game to have that kind of momentum going into and then going into the ACC tournament. So I like to see kind of the momentum they're playing with.
Yeah, whether it was Cole or Buddy Boeheim, Hubert Davis said it best after that game, and then after the Duke game, where it's like, I wish I could split Leaky up and like have him guard multiple people at the same time. But you know, it seems like whoever he is guarding, that's one less person that you can count on for the other team to be a threat offensively. And I think somebody who can kind of help out with that and be another long body on the defensive end, and then he also contributes offensively, somebody that we haven't really talked about too much, somebody like Puff Johnson, where Leaky goes down in the NC State game, kind of tweaks his knee, hyperextends it a bit, and then Puff goes off for a career-high 16 points. What have you seen from Puff's game that should excite UNC fans, both in the short term this season and then long term for his future?
Yeah, I mean, for one, he plays hard, man. When he goes out there, he gives everything that he has, which is something huge for, I think, what Coach Davis has been looking for coming off the bench, is somebody just to come in and kind of still compete like the starting five does. I think, too, obviously, he can shoot the ball from the perimeter. That's always good with a team that has playmakers like Caleb and then a big down low with Armando and then RJ up top. So it's always big, the more shooters that you can have to stretch the floor. And then, like you said, he's kind of a long, athletic guy that can hopefully turn into somebody who can really defend multiple positions, kind of like a Leaky. So I love seeing what Puff is bringing. Obviously he's dealt with some injuries and things like that, but he's come right in and played extremely hard, played extremely well. So hopefully he can become one of those, main guys in that rotation.
Yeah, the past few games he's been pretty consistent. The first guy off the bench, somebody that Coach Davis is looking to turn to early, and he was ready when Leaky went down and stepped up, had a huge game against NC State. And in the post game, Hubert Davis said that you're always going to get a chance and an opportunity. I don't know when it's going to come, where, how, and the manner which it's going to come, but when, not if, when it comes, the only job that you have is to be ready. That's something that you've kind of had to deal with in the NBA, making the most of, any minutes that come your way to kind of maximize any chances that you do get. What helps to maximize those opportunities when you don't really know when that opportunity will come?
Yeah, I mean it's tough. It's always hard because as a basketball player, as a competitor, you want to play 30 minutes a game, right? You want to do this, do that. But I think for me, I try to kind of look at it as like, okay, whatever minutes I get, like those are my, that's my NBA championship time, right? It sounds corny, but like, okay, this is my time to go out there and give everything that I have, right? Because at the end of the day, everybody's watching. Everybody, when it comes to the NBA, all the NBA teams are watching. There's a bunch of guys, scouts that go to different games, whatever. But in college, I mean, I think it's kind of the same way, right? Like when I get my opportunity, I'm trying to get into this rotation, right? We're about to go to the ACC tournament, about to go to the NCAA tournament. And I'm going to go out there and play as hard as I can for whatever time it is. I think, like I said, it is difficult when you are a competitor, but if you can keep that mindset as far as like, okay, these are the minutes I have, let me go out there and ball out during these minutes, whether it's 3, 15, 27, however many games it might be, or however many minutes it might be, that's what I'm going to do. So I think Puff is the perfect example of that, coming back from injury, trying to find, his way around the team, trying to figure out where his spot might be, where his role might be. And now he's pretty solidified, I feel like, in that top probably 8 or 9 guys.
Yeah, I think it also takes a different type of mentality and a different wiring for, it's not something that any player can kind of really handle. And because what I'm wondering really is, how do you block out the pressure of limited opportunities so somebody like Puff isn't going out there pressing or thinking in the back of his head, like, if I do something wrong, Coach Davis is going to turn to Styles or he's going to turn to somebody else, and then there goes my opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, that's the hardest thing. You kind of have pressure applied on you kind of on your own, probably mentally. You think that if you make a mistake or you miss an assignment on defense or whatever, that you have one chance and that's it. But I think if you kind of look at it as, okay, look, I have nothing to lose. Like I'm already out of the rotation, right? Like I'm gonna go out here and I'm just gonna try to earn as many minutes as I can. I think that helps a lot. And the more too, I feel like the more too that the coach sees you going out there and just competing from the jump, sometimes mistakes can kind of be covered up with, hard play. And so I think that's kind of the mentality you have to take. I don't think you can necessarily take a mentality of, okay, I got to hit every shot whenever I get in there. I think that applies even more pressure onto yourself. But if you just tell yourself, hey, look, I'm going to go out here, I'm going to play extremely hard. If I get a shot, I'm going to try to knock it down or whatever it might be, then I think you're setting yourself up well.
Yeah, that's something I've been trying to tell guys the past couple of years coaching high school basketball. Like, if you're going to make a mistake, make it going 100 miles per hour, and
Exactly.
where you aren't questioning people's effort. And I don't think anybody could question Puff's effort. And one thing Hubert Davis has talked about with Puff Johnson is, just his appreciation for being out there. How much do you think that's kind of helped Puff in this process, being somebody who has been sidelined for so long, to where, he's just happy to be out there and be healthy?
Yeah, I mean, I think it gives you a totally different perspective when it comes. when it comes to guys like Caleb Love, Armando, Leaky, guys that play 30 plus minutes a game, they don't even really realize it, but you kind of take for granted, like, okay, this is how much time I play. And whether you're coming back from an injury or you're just out of the rotation for a while and you're trying to get into that rotation, the appreciation that you have and the perspective that you have as far as like, okay, I'm earning every single minute I possibly can earn. And when you earn it, it feels like you've accomplished something. So I'm sure, it's great to hear that Puff is, appreciative of being there, playing the time that he plays. I know Cam pretty well, his older brother. And Cam is pretty much the exact same way. Like he's going to go out there and earn every single minute he gets. He's going to play hard. Obviously, he can shoot the crap out the ball, but he kind of has that same perspective, even now in the league. So I think it's good to have somebody like a Puff who has earned his way up there, had the right perspective, competed every time he goes on the court. And then he's knocked down some shots too, which is always big.
Yeah, you and Cam have some parallels to how you guys have kind of come up through both going to Carolina, both being in the league, both having younger brothers who are playing Division I basketball. And from your perspective as somebody who has a younger brother that kind of has followed in their shadow and trying to become like the best basketball player they can be, what kind of advice, if you're Cam or if you're talking to your brother, would you give to them to kind of be their own person, and knowing that for how successful you've been, you've almost put like a target on their back, knowing that everybody's kind of expecting the same things whenever they're playing.
Yeah, I've always, man, and it's hard too because, unfortunately, fans and all that kind of stuff, even while I was at UNC and Jonathan was coming up, kind of through high school, there'd be fans like, oh, the next Justin Jackson or whatever, like they would put titles and labels on him just based off of what I was doing. And I would always try to tell him like, hey, just be you, man, like create your own path, bro. And just be Jonathan. You don't have to be Justin. You don't have to be this, the next guy here in line. Like just be you, be the best you that you can be. And, now obviously he's at Liberty and having a good time, all that kind of stuff. And I think it's the same for Puff, right? Cam came into UNC and did some huge things while he was at UNC. And so now I'm sure there was labels and things like that for Puff, but I think everybody has to have their own path, right? Everybody has to be the best version of themselves they can be. They can't be anybody else. So I think my only advice, and I'm sure Cam has told him multiple times as well, is just go be Puff Johnson. Don't try to be Cam. Don't try to be so-and-so. Just go be Puff Johnson and you'll be totally fine.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. And I don't think that's something that the normal fan would think about on a day-to-day basis when they see somebody like Puff and start comparing them to somebody like Cam, who is a lottery pick. It's already going to be tough enough to try to live up to those standards, but it is going to be fun to see Puff kind of develop over the next couple of years and even finishing out this year. But it's early March. It's time for coaches to start their campaigns for their players to win postseason awards, and Hubert Davis was doing just that, saying that it's not even close. Armando Bacot should be the ACC Player of the Year. We aren't watching the other two players in consideration, Bonchero from Duke and Williams from Wake Forest, with the same type of focus. But we're watching Bacot. He's averaging basically 16 points, 13 rebounds a game. We just saw him become the first player in school history to have 25 points, 15 rebounds, and 5 blocks in a single game. As a former ACC Player of the Year, why do you think Bacot is deserving to join you in the ranks of Carolina players that have taken home that award?
Man, when I watch UNC basketball this year, man, I would say it's been a roller coaster of a season. But I look at the team, man, and they're second in the ACC, right? They're 22-8. Armando has literally dominated almost everybody that they've played, right? Like it's still been an up and down season as far as the team goes. but when he goes onto the court, you can pretty much put in the stat sheet 15 and 12, right? At least. And so when I think about an ACC Player of the Year, like I think of somebody who dominated the ACC, was on one of the better teams, right? And so I feel like he fits right into there. Now, don't get me wrong, Williams from Wake Forest has had an unbelievable season. Obviously, everybody knows Banchero and kind of, for one, what his future looks like, but what he's been doing in college already. But for me, it's just I look at UNC and I think too, I take away Armando from the team and the success that they've had as far as winning 22 games. I don't think they would necessarily have that success if Armando wasn't with them. So I think that's kind of my take on it. I think all of those guys are well deserving of the award. They've put in a ton of work. But maybe I'm biased, but Armando has just dominated every single player that he's played against, I feel like, except for a few games. So that's my reasoning behind Armando being ACC Player of the Year.
Where's your ACC Player of the Year trophy?
Man, I wish I knew, bro. I think my mom might have it. I'm not sure. I don't really have many of my trophies, man. I'm not really a collector of those kind of things, but my mom for sure has a bunch of stuff, so I'm sure she has it.
Do you have any on display in the house?
I don't have any on display in my house.
Wow. I think I would get a replica NCAA championship and a replica Larry O'Brien and have those be like the two centerpieces when you walk in.
I really should do that, huh? Like right there on the bar, like as they
like
walk
a spotlight,
in,
a spotlight.
just sitting there, full spotlight, just rotating around it. Gosh, that'd be conceited.
We'll start working on that. We'll do some renovations this summer. You're a little busy now. And then the other thing I wanted to talk to you about was the Syracuse game. You could say whatever you want about Caleb Love, but there's no denying that in the biggest moments, he wants to be the guy for this Carolina team. I think Hubert Davis said it best that there's very few guys that can make the shots Love does, but more importantly, there's very few guys that are willing to take those shots. What do you think that says about the confidence that Love plays with, where he wants to be the guy in the biggest moments, and if he is struggling, that's something where it's not really in the back of his mind because he's confident in the work that he's put in to get him to this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's impressive that, he keeps that same confidence and that same aggression. I think shot selection is definitely something that we could definitely, I would say, tune up a little bit, but coming from a guy who I probably took a few bad shots while I was at UNC as well. I can't judge him too much on that. But I think kind of watching a guy kind of struggle as far as shooting goes throughout a game. And then all of a sudden when the moment's, it's time to win a game and he steps right into the next shot like he had made the last five, I think is very impressive to me. Mentally that shows that he's very, I would say mature, very I think he definitely bets on himself, I guess I would say. And so seeing him be able to step in to a few of those shots, man, and knock them down when it was time to really win the game. I think he ended up finished with 21. And I think at one point, I think it was like 4 or 5 minutes left in the game. I think he was like 2 for 13 overall. And then for him to finish with 21 and hit some really huge shots down the stretch, it was impressive. I got to give him all the credit in the world because it was definitely impressive to see him, play with that same confidence. So, I think the game of basketball is all about the law of averages, right? Like you're going to have a terrible game. You're going to end up having a great game. It's all going to even its way out. And so I think that's the perfect example of seeing how, he was struggling and then just stayed with it and it ended up turning out all right for them.
Yeah, the statement, I guess, this team is going to go as far as Caleb Love takes them. It's scary for Carolina fans because they see the roller coaster that is Caleb Love, but there is a scenario where he does get hot for a couple of games, and this team can be one that makes a run in the ACC tournament or makes a run the first weekend in the NCAA tournament, even though if they're coming in as a 10 or 11, somebody like Caleb Love is not somebody a 2 or 3 seed really wants to see in the first round in a first round type matchup. But we're going to talk about the Duke game next. But first, let's take a break to let the national guys get their ads in so we can keep paying the bills around here. All right, we're back. At one point, Justin, this season Carolina was 3-3 on the road, but UNC has now won 4 straight on the road heading into this matchup at Cameron Indoor. How much confidence do you think that gives UNC for this game versus Duke?
It should give them a little bit. To be honest, I don't even know if they're really thinking about their past road games going into this game. I mean, I think going into Cameron Indoor Stadium is totally different than any other road game that you will have all season. And so, I hope that they're hyped, man. I hope they're excited. You obviously have all the publicity as far as, who all is going to be at the game, how much the tickets are, all that kind of stuff. And so I hope that they take the same exact, mindset going on the road as they did against NC State and Virginia Tech. I'm hoping that they're able to take that going into a very hostile environment and in a game that's going to be very, I guess, emotional, very hyped. And hopefully they can knock them off. Obviously, all the respect to Coach K. I know most fans and stuff wouldn't appreciate it, but Coach K has been one of the best of all time. So all respect to him going into his last game at Cameron Indoor. But hopefully the guys can go in there and knock them off.
You mentioned the hype that kind of comes around playing in Cameron Indoor, where just the past couple of years, the Duke UNC game, you've had Obama, 2 Chainz, Spike Lee, Peyton Manning, Tony Romo. What is that like playing in college? Like you're going to class on Friday and then on Saturday you have this star-studded cast coming to see, or is that even something that you're aware of in the moment?
To be honest, I never really knew unless it was at our place. I never really knew going to away games who was there. I think while I was there, they had a few guys come back when we went to Cameron Indoor, but I never really knew it until afterwards when you would see it like on social media and that kind of stuff. So for me, I never really paid attention to it, and I really never was able to pay attention to the stands much anyways while I was playing. I didn't when I got on the court, like that was all that really like my focus was on. But I mean, it's hard too because especially this game, it's public. Basically, everything's publicized. I mean, they have a freaking number of former Duke players that are going to be in attendance. They've got the price of tickets, already all out there on TV and things like that. So, hopefully they can keep their mindset on kind of what's important. And that's just going in there and trying to get a win. So we'll see what they can do.
So you're saying as a lifelong diehard Dallas Cowboy fan, you never went up to Tony Romo and Jason Garrett and been like, you guys are cheering for the wrong team?
Man, to be honest, I met Jason Garrett one time. And I don't think Duke or UNC ever came up in the conversation. But no, I just, you know what, I'll pay my respects to those guys instead of get on them for a lapse in judgment. You know what I mean?
Speaking of Cameron Indoor, the Cameron Crazies are what kind of really makes that gym. They've been camping out now for probably months for just this game and just the opportunity to see UNC Duke. Do you have any memorable moments with them, because they're known for the cheer sheets? You mentioned NC State fans, they're crossing lines, but do you have any good moments with the Cameron Crazies or anything that kind of sticks out?
I don't ever really remember the Camera Crazy saying anything crazy in particular to me. I remember NC State fans saying some wild stuff, some stuff that should not be said to another human. But the only thing, and I got to give them credit too, man. Like the energy that they bring each and every game is there's really nothing that matches it except for, the UNC student sections. I think for me, the only thing I would want to see is, just a little bit more of the students kind of down there by the court.
Yeah.
I think that would cause some, they would be in talks, in comparisons with the Cameron Crazies if we just had a few more student sections down there by the court. But I think with the Cameron Crazies, man, it's just you have to know going in that if something bad happens, you're gonna hear it from them, right? They're gonna go crazy, and
You
they're gonna
cannot
have
throw up an air ball.
You cannot throw up an air ball. You throw up an air ball, it's gonna take at least 2 or 3 minutes for them to, say air ball every time you touch the ball. But I have a picture from, I guess it would have been probably my freshman year. I was taking it out on the sideline next to them. And that's a wild experience, like with them, like basically almost touching you, and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty crazy, but it just adds to the whole rivalry, man. It's the rivalry goes so much deeper than, Coach K versus, it was Coach Williams at the time, or UNC versus Duke. Like there's so many different things that go into this rivalry that makes it, in my opinion, the best rivalry of all time. So, I think it's going to be a fun game to watch.
We mentioned that this team might be feeling confident going into the Duke game, winners of 10 of their last 12. However, I'm not sure too many fans out there are feeling that confident. The spread is already over 12 points. We saw how the first matchup went down with how bad a matchup Duke's players kind of presented for this Carolina team. So looking at it, I want you to look at it glass half full. What can change in this game to give UNC a chance?
Yeah, I mean, they're playing better. UNC's playing better than they did however long ago it was when they played against Duke. They are playing harder, right? They're executing a little bit better. And the crazy thing about basketball, man, it takes one game. That's all it takes. It takes one game for a Caleb Love to get hot, or Banchero to go cold, or Armando to be able to get 10 offensive rebounds, right? It takes one game. That's all it is. So I think that's the great thing about basketball. I think as far as fans going into this game, you got to look at how much better they're playing. UNC is playing since that game, right? I mean, like we said, it's been a roller coaster of a season, but these last 4 or 5 games, they've really played well. They've put together some good wins. And so, going in against a team like this, obviously, like I said, it's going to be an emotional night. They're probably going to be pretty hyped because they want to have Coach K, ended on a good note. So they just got to go out there and match that intensity. So I don't know. I'm always a half glass half full type guy anyways. So I think they got just as good a chance as anybody to go in there and get a win. So hopefully they go in there with that mindset.
I'm smiling and laughing kind of because you said it only takes one game, and you kind of listed a bunch of different scenarios. Banchero goes cold, Caleb Love goes hot. One of the craziest things from this series was the Zion shoe game, where he just blows out his shoe the first.
Right, or somebody's shoe could just blow out.
Yeah, if Banchero's shoe blows out and has to miss the rest of the game, then it's like, Carolina, the odds start shifting in Carolina's favor. But we've talked about it. This is the Coach K farewell tour. We've seen it every other second on ESPN, them talking about K going out this year, Carolina, the last game in Cameron Indoor. If you're Carolina, how do you avoid not getting caught up in the pageantry that is going to come with K's last game in Cameron Indoor?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because, like you said, it's literally everywhere you go. It's on TV every 5 seconds. It's probably on social media everywhere. But you got to just try to look at it as another game. That's the only way that you can try to keep it, kind of the same as any other game you're going into. I think for them, for me now, especially at the time I didn't, but now especially like getting off of social media during this time is probably best. Stay, or at least staying off of it as much as possible. focusing on the current moment instead of everything else, all the extras. I think those are probably the best ways to try to, go into the game and just be able to play the basketball game, right? Like not play the extra stuff that's going on or all that kind of stuff, but just go in there and just hoop like they've been doing the last 4 games. So hopefully they can keep that mindset. It's tough, man, because like you said, I mean, it's an all-time great coach playing his last home game, right? And so there's going to be people there. There's going to be cameras there. There's going to be fans going crazy, all this kind of stuff. And you try to say, let's just go in there and play the game, but it is tough. So hopefully the guys can have a mature outlook about it and just go out there and try to beat Duke.
We'll see how Carolina does. There's still a reason why you play the game, and really anything can happen when these two teams meet. But that's all we have for this week. Carolina at Duke, of course, 6 p.m. on Saturday, ESPN, and then later on in the week, Carolina will head to Brooklyn for the ACC tournament. But Justin, that's all we have. Always appreciate it, and hope you're doing well, man.
Appreciate you, man, always.